Welcome to the explainer. Sometimes in JavaScript, you run into syntax that looks, well, a little weird at first. But today, we're going to tackle one of those features that I promise will totally change the way you write code. It's going to make it cleaner, smarter, and just way more efficient. We're talking about destructuring assignment. Okay, so let's just jump right in. This slide says it all, doesn't it? On the left, that's the code we've all written a million times. Line by line, pulling data out of an array. It works, sure, but it's clunky, verbose. Now look at the right. That is the exact same thing. One clean, readable line. It's not just shorter, it's just better. A massive upgrade for sure. So what is this magic trick? It's called destructuring assignments. And really, the name says it all. Think of it like unpacking groceries. Instead of taking out one item at a time, you're taking the whole bag and putting everything on the counter at once, all in its own spot. We're literally unpacking arrays of objects directly into variables. It might sound a little abstract, but stick with me because this is a real game changer. So to really appreciate the solution, let's just sit with the problem for a second. We've all been there, right? You've got an object or an array, and you need to pull out a few values. So you write a line for the first one, and another line for the second. It's tedious, yeah? But the real problem is that it makes your code harder to read. Down the road, it's just a pain to maintain. But what if you could do all of that in just one move? Well, you can. That is exactly what destructuring is for. So let's dive into this super elegant syntax and see how it really works. And we'll start with something we use all the time in JavaScript, arrays. All right, arrays. With destructuring, you can literally just pull the elements out into their own named variables, all in one beautiful single line of code. That's it. It's that simple. No more R0, R1, R2, one after the other. It's a whole new ballgame. And get this, it works with anything that gives you back an array. Check out this example. We're using the good old split method on a string. That returns an array, right? And boom, we can immediately destructure it into first name and surname variables. How clean is that? So slick. Okay, here's a really important point. The name destructuring sounds a bit violent, doesn't it? Like you're destroying something. But you're not. It's completely non-destructive. Your original array is left totally untouched. All it's doing is copying the values into new variables. This is so good for writing predictable, safe code. But wait, there's more. Destructuring gives you some amazing superpowers. Let's say you don't care about an element in the middle. Easy. Just use a comma as a placeholder to skip right over it, like we're doing with Caesar here. Or even cooler, what if you want the first few elements and then everything else? That's where the rest operator, those three little dots, comes in. It just scoops up all the remaining elements and puts them into a brand new array for you. So powerful. Okay, so what happens if the array doesn't have enough elements for all your variables? Is your code going to break? Nope, because destructuring lets you set default values. In this example, our array only has one item. So since there's no second item for surname, it just gets the default value we provided, anonymous. This is an awesome way to avoid those annoying undefined errors. Now, destructuring isn't just about pulling data out of things. You can use it for some really neat programming tricks. Here's a classic one. You know how when you want to swap the values of two variables, you usually need a third temporary variable to hold one of the values? It's kind of a pain. Well, check this out. With destructuring, you can do it in one single elegant line. What's happening here is pretty clever. On the right side, we're creating a temporary array with the values already swapped. Then, on the left side, we're immediately destructuring that new array back into our original guest and admin variables. It's just a beautiful example of how this syntax can make your code so much more concise. Alright, we've nailed arrays. So let's switch gears and talk about objects. It's a similar idea, but there's one huge difference. With arrays, it was all about the position, the order of the elements. With objects, the order means nothing. It is all about the names of the properties. So for objects, we use curly braces instead of square brackets, and we just list the property names we want to pull out. JavaScript will create variables with those same names. But what if you want a different variable name? No problem. You can use a colon to rename it on the fly. Here, we're taking the width property and putting its value into a new variable called w. Super handy for when you've already got a variable named width or just want a shorter name. And guess what? All those cool tricks we learned with arrays, they work with objects too. You can set default values for properties that might not exist in the object, and you can use the rest operator to grab all the remaining properties and bundle them into a new object. This makes it so easy to work with complex objects and only take what you need. Okay, time for a gotcha moment. This is a common trip up when you're starting out with object destructuring. What happens if you want to assign values to variables that already exist? So you've already declared them with let, and now you want to destructure into them. If you try it the obvious way, you're going to get a syntax error. Why? Well, it's because JavaScript gets confused. It sees those curly braces at the beginning of a line and thinks, oh, this is a code block, like an if statement or something. It doesn't realize you're trying to do an assignment. The fix, thankfully, is super simple. You just wrap the entire statement in parentheses. That's the signal to JavaScript that says, hey, this is an expression, not a block. And then everything works just fine. So we've seen how great this is for cleaning up variable assignments. But honestly, one of the most powerful places to use destructuring is with functions. This can completely change how you handle function parameters, making them way more flexible and readable. Let's see what I mean. Okay, look at the old way here. We've all seen functions like this with a long list of parameters. It's a nightmare, right? You have to remember the exact order, and what if you only want to pass the first and fourth arguments? You have to fill the middle with undefined. It's just ugly. Now look at the smart way. We just pass a single object. The function doesn't care about the order, and we only have to include the properties we actually want to set. So much better. And here's the best part. When you define the function, you destructure that object right in the parameter list. You can even set default values for everything. This makes the function call itself super clean, but the real win is that the function definition becomes self-documenting. Anyone looking at this code knows exactly what options it accepts and what their defaults are, without having to read a single line of comments. It's fantastic for maintainability. So let's wrap this up. What have we learned? Destructuring is this amazing tool that lets you unpack arrays and objects into variables. You can use the .rest operator to gather up leftover items. You can set default values to avoid bugs. You can even rename variables on the fly. And maybe most importantly, you can create these incredibly smart readable function parameters. It's not just a feature, it's a fundamental part of modern JavaScript. So yeah, destructuring is way more than just a neat trick or some syntactic sugar. It's really a different way of thinking about how you handle data structures in your code. It encourages you to write cleaner, more declarative code. So here's the real question. Now that you see how powerful this is, where's the first place in your own code you're going to try this out? Give it a shot. I bet you'll find a perfect spot for it today.